Well, I think obviously there is a change in color for me, so it's you know, a new experience. But I think the car looks beautiful. To get you know, to see how it comes together, it's always something special. Every year when there's a new car and you see the first bits, and then finally the final car all assembled, I think it's something special. So I can't wait to go on track and see how it feels. Well, obviously changing team, there's a lot of different things, you know, not so much about the driving position, because obviously it's custom made, so you can ask for things that you like, but in terms of the steering wheel layout and the strategy is a bit different. So people talk you know, about probably the same things, but in a different language, meaning they use different words for probably similar actions. So it's always a lot of new things to learn, but I think we'll have, you know, the time through the beginning of the year, through testing, to get into the rhythm. I think the first time when I arrived last year and I had the opportunity to test the car from 2012 was already something magical, so something really special. And of course, to now, you know, get going and start the 2015 season properly, it will be something special. But yeah, I think when the flag drops in Melbourne, I think will be again a very special thing. The first race with Ferrari, everything is red, and it's a very special color because it means so much, with so much history. So I'm very much looking forward to it. Well, I think you know, there's a lot of change going on. There's a lot of new people in new positions, so including myself. So you know, it always takes a bit of time to settle in until you really start to make proper progress. But I'm confident that, you know, we are going in the right direction. But I think it would be wrong to immediately expect a lot of us. Obviously, also we need to remember we're coming from a 2014 season where there was one team very dominant. So it will be difficult to, you know, be right there from the beginning. But I think for us the main target is to start to really work together, start to make progress, and hopefully catch up more and more as the season progresses.
So you and Kimi have been known to get along quite well together. How are you looking forward to working with him?
Well, I don't expect any problems. I mean, he will be a difficult teammate to beat on the track because he's very quick, very talented. But you know, I think off track we get along well, and usually there's not so much words being exchanged, but it's always very straightforward, which is something I appreciate in Kimi, and is not happening that often in Formula One.
You've been with the Italian team before, so did you brush up some of the Italian? Are you going to speak some other language, or?
Yeah, I think I'm getting into it. Obviously, it helps the more time you spend with the team, the more you listen to the language and so on. On top, I try to obviously learn a little bit as the season goes on. But yeah, you know, coming from Toro Rosso, the Italian seems to come back. I think I understand fairly well, but I lack a little bit of vocabulary to really start speaking on my own.
And finally, Maurizio said he would be happy with one win this season. You share his view?
Well, I think we would be happy, but of course we'd be happier if we would win more. So, but you know, as I said, you have to be realistic. There's a lot of change that happened over winter. So I think the most important is that we, you know, start getting into the groove quickly in winter testing, and then we start to make progress. If the situation is like last year, it will be very difficult to really fight for victories. But of course, it's our goal. That's why we're here. We're not here to finish second.
Is there any specific track you're looking forward to in the calendar?
I'm always looking forward to go to Japan. Suzuka, I think, is more or less my favorite track, but there's a lot of you know, events in the calendar. Melbourne, I think, is a great place to start the season. It's a great city, a great place, great vibe, a great track on top. Singapore is one of the events I enjoy a lot. It's a, you know, proper night race and a very technical and demanding track. So yeah, there's not really a race I don't like. So I'm looking forward to all the races.
So the SF15-T, the new Formula 1 car Ferrari, what's your first-hand impression?
Yeah, I just seen it in one piece, every part put together, because I seen it last week already, little pieces of it, but it looks nice. I mean, it looks different than last year's car, and what I'm seeing from all the details, for me at least, it looks good. And usually when it looks good, should be a pretty good car. But obviously we have to wait until we get testing and see how it is. And no, first impression is good.
Okay, so you haven't driven it yet, of course, but most people normally are eager to know how about the driving seat, your sitting position. Is that similar to last year, or?
Yeah, it's pretty much similar. I didn't need to do anything really. Once I came for the seat fit, it was all ready, all in the right places. So maybe even a bit more nicer position than last year. It just feels a bit more spacious, and in that way was nice. But it's also the same story that before we drive the car, there might be small things we have to change afterwards. But all under control and all feels okay so far.
You've been through a difficult season in 2014. No mystery about that. So what makes you confident that you can improve your situation? Are you just getting more integrated with the team?
I think we learned a lot from last year with the difficulties that we had, and obviously we had some bad luck on a few races, but you know, sometimes you have the years and it goes like that. Everything seems to go a bit or be a bit difficult, and we understood a lot of things, and hopefully this year we can turn things around and as a team be strong and get more where we should be, and you know, go little by little and get stronger.
So what could be a realistic expectation for this season to come?
Obviously we want to be as strong as we can, but it's too early to say where we're gonna be, and as long as we do our things 100%, work as a one team with two cars to push things forward and keep building what we've been building over the winter, and go from there. I think that's the starting point, and then obviously the results should come. And there's no point, at least on my side, to put any goals yet. And let's start from the first test and go forward from there and see what we have and where we are at that moment, and just keep working hard, and I'm sure the result will come.
And you'll be working alongside Sebastian, who's said to be one of your best friends in the paddock. Are you looking forward to it?
Yeah, of course. I met him now again here yesterday, and we haven't seen each other since the last year, so obviously it will be interesting. First time working with him, but I'm sure we have a good understanding of each other, and you know, the main is to push the team forward and do everything for Ferrari, and then obviously we try to fight against each other, but in a good way, and you know, pushing on the same time, pushing each other to do better things.
Are you impressed by the fact that you sum up like 5 World Championship titles together, you and Seb?
Yeah, but obviously he has most of them. so you know, he has had a very good career so far, and I'm sure he's still gonna have a long career. So, but you know, happy for him. But you know, we try to do well, and I try to do well, and let's hope we can put the Ferrari where it should be.
And finally, this is your second year in your second spell with a Ferrari team. What's the feeling about being a Ferrari driver?
For me, it's not so much different. You know, obviously I've been here before, so I knew most of the people. Some people has changed, and the way the team works has changed slightly, especially from last year. And I think it's the right direction, and obviously we know everybody in Ferrari that we had quite a lot of work to do. We still have a lot of work to do, but you know, I enjoy with the people, and I enjoy in the team. So it's a very nice team to be in, and obviously I won the championship with them, and you know, feeling of being Ferrari F1 driver, I don't really feel that way, because for me it's very normal to be here, but obviously from outside it's probably the most historic team and the best place to be. So I'm very happy and glad to be involved with the team and be part of it.
I think all Formula One cars every year, they're trying to do more or less the same thing. Put as much power down on the road as possible, so that means not just to have a high level of power, but make that power deliverable by the driver in a nice, controllable way. To have a high level of downforce, but again, not just absolute peak downforce being well optimized, but across the range of conditions that the car will see on the track, in corners, high winds, low winds, and in straight lines. So making that aerodynamic package deliver performance in a range of conditions. And then a suspension characteristic that allows the right compromise between the suppleness of the suspension over the road and the support of the aerodynamic platform on top, so that you can deliver high downforce to the car, but without having the tyres skip across the surface of the road. So those are the things that you work on every year, and in particular, compared with last year, where we clearly had an unacceptably large gap in our performance, we've tried to make sure that the weaknesses that we felt were particularly notable on the 14 car were put right for the 15 car.
Overall, the car looks more slender and maybe longer compared to last year's car. Is it just a result of the new set regulation concerning the nose section, or is it also a consequence of some repackaging you've done all around the car?
I think all the cars on the grid this year are going to be more appealing around the front, around the nose, because after a few years of trying, I think we finally invented a regulation that gets what we wanted from a safety point of view, but also doesn't create the rather unappealing features of the last few years. So I think everyone will look a lot prettier at the front, and the 2015 Ferrari is, I think, nice in that regard. However, the back of the car is something that is noticeably different from the 2014 car, where we have been successful in pulling the bodywork much tighter to all the stuff underneath the skin. And that's been done through a lot of work, not just in the wind tunnel, but also in the design part of the company, to try and find radiator designs that were fundamentally more efficient though. So for every square centimetre of radiator, we're able to extract more cooling this year than last, and therefore able to close the car down at the back as a consequence.
The SF15-T car retains the pull rod suspension scheme all around, and that's probably going to raise a few eyebrows from people who expect something new in the area. What's your answer to this?
Every year you set out which areas of the car you think you should put your effort into to try and improve them. And these are decisions that need to be taken quite carefully, because when you make a choice of working on one part of the car, because you don't have infinite resources, you're effectively making a choice not to work on another part of the car. So when you decide what to work on, you have to pick quite carefully the things that you think are going to bring you the maximum amount of return for your effort. And push rod, pull rod on the front, it has pros and cons either side. A pull rod is probably harder to get light and stiff, but it's probably a bit easier to get an aerodynamic performance from it. So it swings and roundabouts, and it was an area of the car that was something that wasn't felt to be a problem on last year's car, and therefore not an area that really merited investment of effort in this time round on the SF15-T.
Of course, much of the work has been around the power unit as well. So can you just give some outlines, basic outlines of what has been done around the car?
Power unit has, along with the rest of the car, been an area of extremely high effort to improve. We had a number of issues with last year's engine and power unit. Early on in the season, the power delivery was not particularly sophisticated, and it was quite tough for the drivers to get the type of throttle response that they wanted. It was improved a lot during the season, and we take that a step further for the SF15-T. A definite weakness of last year's car was that the amount of electrical energy that we were able to recover from the turbo was not really good enough for producing competitive power levels during the race. One of the reasons why Ferrari's qualifying performance was relatively stronger compared with their race performance last year. So that's an area that we've tried to change the architecture of the engine to make it a better compromise between qualifying and racing performance. And then plain simple horsepower. Enormous amounts of work gone into all aspects of our combustion efficiency to try to make sure that in this fuel limited formula where every team is only allowed to burn the same amount of fuel, that every single compression stroke, every single ignition stroke is extracting the maximum amount of horsepower and putting it on the road.
Again, talking about power unit, do you see an advantage in the new rule which Ferrari has endorsed, which allow any team to use up the tokens all through the year instead of just freezing the developing the engine at the end of February as used to be last year?
When you're coming from a position like we are of attempting to recover a gap in performance between our car and some of the opposition, it's quite galling to have an idea for how you might improve your car, but to not be able to do so because the regulations would freeze a certain part of that design for a whole season at a time. And it's frustrating to sit there looking at something on the shelf that you know could deliver you more performance. So finding ourselves as we are recovering performance, trying to eat into the lead demonstrated last year by our opposition, it's good to have the flexibility that we will enjoy in 2015 to keep that development program going during the year, to allow us, if we do a good job, to develop stronger and faster than we would do otherwise. Of course, that opportunity is open to every person, every team competing next year. But the fun of Formula One is that the challenge is not supposed to be easy, but it's nice to have the opportunity to try to bring what we can do to the track and see if we can close that gap.
And finally, I understand cars been made like 10 kilos heavier this year. Did that create an issue to you, or rather it was ease off your job as those cars are known to be quite close to the weight limit?
The rules that were introduced in 2014 are a lot harder to stay under the weight limit than the rules that we had prior to 2014. All teams have got fairly used to the luxury of many kilograms of ballast which they could put low down in the car and position for optimum performance. 2014 was much tougher in that regard, and a recognition of that fact by the teams and by the FIA during the 2014 season led to us all agreeing for an increase in weight of the cars by 10 kilos for 2015. 10 kilos, which was then subsequently raised to 11 kilograms owing to a detail in the weight difference between the tyres. So 11 kilos more in 2015 than 14, and that weight difference allows pretty much everyone on the grid to have a sensible level of ballast, a sensible level meaning that they will be able to move the centre of gravity of their car from the front limit allowed under the regulations to the back limit allowed under the regulations without the car being overweight.